and her best friend Kate had long dreamed of this vacation. Exhausted from their daily routines in Chicago, they headed south to the sunny shores of Cancun. They chose a small beachfront hotel that promised coziness and unforgettable experiences, hoping for the perfect escape from everyday life. The hotel looked flawless, a white facade, a tiled roof, and tropical greenery framing the property. The courtyard was intimate, with soft couches and colorful string lights that created a romantic atmosphere. As they entered their room, Emma immediately felt a sense of calm wash over her. The windows faced the ocean, and the sound of the waves set the perfect tone for relaxation. The first 2 days were all about fun, outdoor breakfasts, beach parties, and strolls through the old streets lined with colorful houses. The girls basked in the sunlight, sipped mojitos, and laughed until they cried, soaking in the rhythm of Mexican life. But something about this paradise unsettled Emma. She couldn't shake the feeling that it was all just a facade. On the third day, after a day full of activities, the girls returned to the hotel. Evening came quickly, and after their busy day, they decided to wind down. The room was quiet, with only the sound of the ocean filling the space. However, around midnight, Emma woke up to strange noises. Something was scratching behind the wall, as if someone or something was trying to break in. Emma sat up in bed, listening intently. She glanced nervously at Kate, who was sound asleep, blissfully curled up in the sheets. "It's just a dream," she whispered to herself, trying to calm down. But the unease lingered. "Kate," she whispered softly to her friend, but there was no response. The noise grew louder, and Emma felt a wave of fear wash over her. She stood up, slowly walked to the lamp, and turned it on to chase away the darkness. That night, they slept with the light on. But in the morning, Emma still couldn't shake her anxiety. She told Kate about the noises, but Kate just laughed it off. "You're just tired. All those cocktails." But the second night, it happened again. This time, Kate also woke up to the strange rustling coming from behind the walls. It sounded as if something, or someone, was trying to get inside, scratching unnervingly close. Emma got up, turning on the light once more. Kate, now frightened, sat up in bed, her eyes wide with fear. "Why didn't you hear this before?" Emma asked, trying to mask her growing worry. "I don't know. This is so creepy," Kate replied, her voice trembling. They both listened as the rustling continued, getting even louder, as if something was desperate to break free. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. It seemed like the sound wouldn't stop, and panic was rising inside her. "Maybe it's just the wind, or something," she tried to reassure herself, but it sounded less and less convincing. The room was silent, except for that eerie rustling. Kate grabbed Emma's hand. "What if it's someone? What if someone's trying to get in?" she whispered, her eyes filled with fear. "We have to do something," Emma decided, though she was shaking with terror inside. She knew leaving the room wasn't a good idea, but the fear of discovering what was really going on was even greater. That night seemed endless, with the noises refusing to stop. When Emma tried to fall asleep again, she couldn't shake the thought, what could possibly be lurking behind the wall? The strange sounds continued to haunt them, hinting at something far more terrifying than they could have imagined. Finally, around 4 a.m., the dreadful noises ceased, and the girls were able to get some rest. Emma woke up early, feeling a sense of unease settle over her like a heavy weight. She reached for her nightstand, but her phone, which was always there, was gone. Panic set in as she frantically searched under the pillow, on the floor, and in the bathroom, but it was nowhere to be found. It was as if her phone had vanished, taking her sense of security with it. "Kate, have you seen my phone?" Emma asked, trying to stay calm, though her voice betrayed her worry. "No, maybe you left it in the restaurant?" Kate stretched groggily, her nonchalance doing nothing to soothe Emma's rising anxiety. Emma quickly got dressed, and they headed down to the reception desk, with Kate repeatedly calling Emma's phone. But each time she pressed the button, there was only silence on the other end. "My phone is missing. Could you help me?" Emma asked the receptionist, her voice trembling with nerves. The man behind the counter glanced at them with blank eyes. "We're not responsible for guests' personal belongings. If you're sure it's gone, you might want to contact the police." His answer only heightened their fear. First the strange noises at night, and now a missing phone. Emma's mind swirled with worry. Something isn't right here. By the time they reached the restaurant for breakfast, neither of them could enjoy the meal. They sat sipping coffee, but their anxiety only grew, like storm clouds rolling over the sun. Suddenly, a woman named Clara approached them. She looked exhausted, her eyes red and her movements jittery, as if she was running from an invisible threat. "You hear them too, don't you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible, as though afraid someone might overhear. Emma and Kate exchanged glances, their eyes saying more than words. "Hear what?" "The scratching, those strange footsteps at night. They get closer to the walls every time," Clara whispered, her voice shaky. "I slept fine the first night, but after that, it started. The staff won't listen. They just say it's an old hotel." Kate nodded, feeling fear creep up her spine. "And my phone is missing," Emma quietly added. Clara's eyes widened, as if she had just realized something. "I met a girl staying across from your room. She heard the same noises, just like you. A few days later, she vanished without a trace, even though she was supposed to stay for another week. We became friends, and I couldn't understand why she didn't say goodbye. And she hasn't been online for 5 days. That's strange, she couldn't go anywhere without her phone." "What did the staff say?" Emma asked. "They said she just checked out. But now I know it's no coincidence." Clara's voice shook with fear. Then, a man called her from across the room, and she hurried away. After the conversation, the girls felt a chilling fear take hold, and they decided to return to their room. When they walked in, the air felt thick with dread. Kate noticed something off that made her stop in her tracks. At first, everything looked normal. But as soon as they stepped further into the room, they saw that the bed had been neatly made, something they hadn't done. Lying on the perfectly made bed was Emma's missing phone. "Did you leave it here?" Kate asked, her voice trembling. Emma stood frozen. "No, we didn't even make the bed." A cold shiver ran down their spines. Someone had been in the room. Someone had moved their things. Kate cautiously approached Emma's phone and picked it up. On the screen was a single unread message, "You're next." The girls could barely breathe, as if trying to wake up from a nightmare. But this wasn't a dream. And what awaited them next was even more terrifying. The phone vibrated again, but this time the sound seemed deafening, like a lightning strike. Emma hesitantly picked up the phone, dreading another message. Her hands trembled, but she forced herself to look at the screen. "Feel it? I'm already here." That was the final straw. Emma got up from the bed and threw the phone to the floor as if it were a burning coal. Her heart raced so fast she could barely breathe. Kate jumped up after her, trying to understand what was happening. "We have to do something. Let's call the police." Emma nearly shouted, her voice filled with fear. "We can't just sit here and wait." Kate tried to remain calm. Her fingers clenched the phone tightly as she quickly dialed 911. She pressed the phone to her ear, but instead of hearing the operator's voice, there was only a low, eerie hum, unmistakable. The line was dead. "No," Kate whispered, her voice barely audible as she tried again, only to be met with the same hum filling the room's silence. "He blocked my phone too." After receiving the terrifying texts, Kate and Emma, frightened to the core, locked all the doors and windows. They decided to take turns staying awake, trying not to fall asleep, but every rustle outside the door or knock made them flinch. "We just have to make it till dawn," Kate whispered, wiping cold sweat from her forehead. "This is probably just a cruel prank." Emma nodded, but the panic in her eyes was clear. Time passed slowly, as if frozen. The girls sat holding hands until they finally dared to take a sip of water, hoping to calm themselves down a little. Maybe water will help, Emma managed to say, trying to regain composure. The water was already on the table, brought earlier in the evening. After taking a few sips, both girls felt their eyelids grow heavy. Fatigue hit so suddenly that they couldn't resist. Without realizing how, both fell into a deep sleep. The darkness in the room seemed even deeper when he appeared. Through a hidden passage behind the wardrobe, a man silently slipped into the room. He had been watching the girls from the other side of the mirror since their first day in the house, which allowed him to study their behavior unnoticed and choose the perfect moment for the abduction. His eyes gleamed in the dim light as he slowly approached Emma's bed. In his hands, he held ropes and something that looked like a gleaming blade. His movements were precise and practiced, as if this wasn't his first time. He tied Emma up, checked her pulse, and, making sure she wouldn't wake up, lifted her into his arms. The faint light from the window reflected off the metal in his hand, a small needle with traces of a sedative. The man carried Emma through the hidden passage behind the wardrobe, like a ghost vanishing into the night. Kate woke up early in the morning to the piercing silence. The room was still dark, but the first rays of sunlight had begun to peek through the heavy curtains. She slowly sat up in bed and immediately sensed something was wrong. Her eyes instinctively landed on the empty bed across from hers. Emma wasn't there. Kate couldn't remember what had happened after she and Emma drank the water. The last thing she recalled was them sitting together, holding hands, trying to calm down after the eerie messages. "Emma?" Kate whispered, her voice trembling. She quickly rushed to the door, locked. The windows, locked too. How could this have happened? Kate gulped for air, panic clawing at her insides. She darted to her phone and dialed her friend's number. It was turned off. Her hands shook, her heart pounded. Kate couldn't wait any longer. She nervously turned her phone off and on, but the signal didn't return. She surveyed the room. The windows were locked, the door too, and there was no sign of how Emma could have disappeared. Everything looked as if she had simply been erased from reality. Shivering, Kate decided to go downstairs to talk to the hotel staff again. But halfway down the corridor, she heard quiet footsteps. It was the hotel staff, 2 men and a woman. They were whispering, and it seemed like they were discussing someone. Kate quickly hid behind a wall that separated them from the adjacent room and listened. "They're starting to suspect," said the man standing closest to her. "One more day, and they'll disappear, like all the others," the woman replied with cold confidence. Kate barely stifled a gasp and suddenly felt it hard to breathe. She knew she had to act immediately. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed from the hallway. A mirror that a few hotel staff members were carrying unexpectedly fell and shattered on the floor. In shock and alarm, Kate peeked out from behind the wall. Amid the shards of glass reflecting the light, she noticed a small fragment that had landed near her. She picked it up to examine it, sensing that something was off with the mirror. She quickly recoiled, and a disturbing realization dawned on her. This mirror, it was a spy device. On one side, it looked like an ordinary mirror, but on the other, it was transparent. Panic rose within her as she remembered that a Gesell mirror is often used to observe people without their knowledge. Suddenly, one of the female staff members began shouting. "You can't just carry this around. We have to do this at night. And you broke the mirror, how stupid can you be?" As chaos erupted over the broken mirror, Kate quickly slipped back into the room to confirm her suspicions. Panic consumed her, but she was right. She placed her finger on the mirror and saw no gap, proving it was indeed a two-way mirror. Desperate to do something, Kate began searching the entire room. She opened the closet, and inside, she found a small passageway in the wall. This was where the strange sounds had been coming from during the night. Without hesitation, she crawled through the passage and found herself in a hidden room. It was a true disaster zone, old belongings of hotel guests, abandoned phones, suitcases, everything that had belonged to those who had disappeared. On a table, she found photographs of other victims, but there were also pictures of Clara and ones of her and Emma. That was when Kate realized, this wasn't just a hotel. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her and felt a sharp blow to the head. Darkness engulfed her. Kate woke up on the cold floor of another room. Candles burned all around her, and she saw the hotel staff standing in a circle, chanting some sort of prayer in a language she didn't understand. Clara was there too, dressed in strange but beautiful attire. Emma lay unconscious nearby. They were both part of some ritual. Darkness enveloped the room, and Kate realized she was tied up with ropes. Meanwhile, the hotel staff was preparing to sacrifice Emma. They surrounded her, chanting incantations over and over again, and the air grew thick. Suddenly, Clara, the same woman who had approached them during breakfast, stepped forward, raised her hand, leaned in close to Kate, and whispered, "Run and save your friend." Her voice was quiet but firm. Though panic surged through Kate, she felt a rush of adrenaline. But just then, Clara accidentally knocked over a candle on the table, and flames erupted, quickly consuming the spell papers lying nearby. "Fire!" Clara shouted, and chaos filled the room. Panic spread in the cramped space. Without hesitation, Kate rushed toward Emma, who was being held by two men. But they were so terrified of the fire that they didn't notice as Kate began dragging her friend, struggling with Emma's limp, unresponsive body. "Emma, please wake up," Kate whispered, tears streaming down her face as she pulled her toward the exit. Every step was a battle. She felt her strength waning, but the knowledge that her friend was in danger fueled her determination. Once outside the room, Kate looked around, searching for a way out. But every hallway was filled with hotel staff, who seemed to be waiting for them. Suddenly, Clara reappeared. "This way," she called, pointing to a hidden exit in the back passage. She opened a small door leading to the abandoned part of the hotel. Barely able to breathe, Kate dragged Emma through the doorway. The path led through dark corridors, and Kate's heart pounded with fear. "Hurry, go," Clara urged them, guiding them through the blackened halls. The flames were devouring everything in their path. The hotel was burning, and the thick smell of smoke choked the air, making it harder to breathe with each passing second. Behind them, footsteps echoed. It was other guests, confused and desperate to escape the fiery trap. Clara stopped, scanning the growing danger, and shouted, "All of these people, they're staff. They're all part of this horrific cult." Kate froze, trying to process her words. "I was in the same position as you," Clara continued, her eyes reflecting painful memories. "But they chose me. They didn't kill me, they brought me into their ranks. I couldn't escape. When I saw you, I knew you'd be next." Tears streamed down Kate's face. She didn't know what to think, but at that moment, she realized their survival depended on sticking together. They pressed forward, freeing Emma from the terrifying hold, step by step, fighting for their lives. As the fire consumed the rooms, burning debris fell all around them. Kate felt the ground shake beneath her feet, and she struggled to ignore the searing heat that licked at her skin. They ran, dodging through smoke and chaos, until they finally found a narrow passage leading to the outside. Kate and Clara emerged into the street, dragging Emma behind them. They heard the sound of sirens in the distance. Ambulances, police, and fire trucks arrived. "Emma will wake up, she's strong," Kate kept repeating, but fear gripped her heart tighter with every word. The paramedics worked to revive Emma, but their expressions grew more serious by the second. "We did everything we could," one of them said softly, and Kate felt her heart shatter into pieces. She stood in the shadow of the burning hotel, tears streaming down her face like rain on a gray day. She watched as the flames devoured the cursed building, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Memories of the terror, the fear, and the incredible courage lingered in her mind. She thought of Emma, of Clara who had tried to save them, and of all those who remained trapped inside. All of it, the horror that had gripped Kate, cut deep into her soul, leaving only emptiness and dread behind. She stood there, hunched under the weight of what she had just survived, and a single question echoed in her heart: how did I survive all of this? Kate felt a bitter mixture of relief, despair, and fear swirl inside her, emotions she knew she'd carry with her forever. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Drop a comment below letting me know what you think of the story, and be sure to hit that like button. And remember, always double check the hotels you're staying at.